Yeah, that's fine.
Woo, 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 woo. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. This is Let's Talk Java. I am your host, the Power Lady, Laarni Mulvey. I am here today with one amazing guest who one day we're going to meet in person, and I cannot wait to meet. I have Nathan Brye with me, amazing author, amazing person, and I love his accent. I love hearing him talk. And what, comedian as well? Can I add comedian on there too?
Yeah, definitely.
Performer, musician, like all these all these awesome things. So welcome to the show. I'm so glad that you are up early over wherever you're at. I'm going to ask you where you're from here in a second. But the first thing that I usually ask my guests is, what's in your cup? I see you're already sipping
It's
your
coffee.
Cup.
It's a large coffee. Look at the size of that cup. It's huge.
It is huge. And I love big mugs. You know that song, I love big butts and I cannot lie. I was singing the other day. I'm like, I love big mugs with coffee inside. Like I was like singing that in my head, and I'm just like, Laarni, what is wrong with you? But today, unfortunately, I don't. I was on another call with a guest before you, and she's like, "Where's your big mug?" And I was like, "I got too lazy to clean it, so I'm on my little baby mug. Look at my little baby mug.
Oh, it's tiny. Small's fine.
But I'm just like, it holds the coffee, so it works." So, Nathan, welcome. Welcome to Let's Talk Java. I know it's way early for you. First of all, where are you calling in from?
Christchurch, New Zealand.
Which is exactly a day ahead of. I'm in Chicago, so you are a day of almost like a full day ahead of me.
Yeah, it's 5 a.m. Wednesday morning here.
Yeah. It's only Tuesday mid-afternoon for me here. So. I mean, I want to say thank you for taking the time to hop on here very early.
It's okay. I like to call in from the future. What can I say? The future's grim.
And you said it like as soon as we started, you're like, it's cold. And I'm just like, It's cold. Here I am in a tank top, sweating my ass off a little bit, because of the lights and everything, because it's summer here. And you're like, it's cold.
It's -4 Celsius, so I think that's about 24 Fahrenheit.
Oh my God. And I'm not gonna lie, as much as I'm an island woman, born in the Philippines, moved to the States, I love the cold.
I used to, until I started working outside in construction. Now I hate the cold.
Oh gosh. So Nate, tell us a little bit about who you are and like how amazing you are.
I wouldn't say that amazing. I started stand-up comedy about 4 years ago. When I grew up on stage with High School Musicals, theatre, stuff like that. But when I wanted to be an actor as a child. But as you leave high school and you become an adult, things get in the way. It's called life. So I kind of left that dream behind. And then got to my late 30s and thought, I really miss performing. And I'd always wanted to give comedy a go. So I gave it a go and did an open mic and then loved it and carried on doing it. But unfortunately, when we had the whole silly COVID thing, New Zealand went into lockdown very quickly. Our government jumped on it very quickly. So everything, the country was shut down for 5 weeks. I was going to use that time to write my first hour comedy show, because that's where I was at in my career. Write the hour comedy show and then travel around New Zealand. I couldn't be bothered with comedy. I just needed a break. So I started writing novels, writing stories, which I used to do in my early 20s. And when we came out of lockdown, week 5, I think I was 90% of the way through my first draft of Slave Boy. So,
wow.
Here we are now.
And then look at you're on these crazy shows like mine,
Mm.
talking about yourself and talking about your books.
This is not a crazy show. This is fine.
This is fine. This is fine. This is fine.
Have you been on the Angel and Tina show? I think you have, haven't you?
Yeah,
That's crazy.
Well, like I really want to kind of highlight who you are as like a person and who you are as an author. Like, where did all this, come from? Like, where did it stem? Like, your Okay, let me backtrack a little bit. Let's talk about how we connected.
Yes.
There's always somehow like this connection with the amazing Dawn Bates, who connected us, and it's been like a really cool like supportive system with all her authors, but just like the people that I've met that are in New Zealand, in Australia, like all these other places. I think that connection is so amazing. So I do want to say kudos to Dawn Bates for connecting us. That's
very much so. Yes, thank you, Dawn.
Yes. So like Nathan, like tell us a little bit more about where do you get your creativity from? Where did it stem from? Like, how did you decide, like, I'm going to write this book?
I've always had a massive imagination, like huge. If you think back to when you were a small kid, we didn't like going to bed. We wanted to hang out with the adults, but, we had to go to bed as a kid. So what I did as a kid to make bedtime fun was I'd sit there and build stuff in my head as a little kid going to sleep. As a little kid, it was little kids things like, a sandpit, or maybe turn Dad's car into a tank, just silly stuff like that. As I got older, I kind of carried that on. In my early 20s, I was building houses in my head, imagining where every joist, every stud went, and that was relaxing and it got me to sleep. And then I'd build more complicated things, like a medieval church. And then in my mid-30s, I built a big cathedral. I put that cathedral in a town. I put that town in a country. I put people into that country. I started building storylines, and that's how Slave Boy came about. Slave Boy, the story I had in my head was actually book 4.
Oh.
So I had to go back and give it book 1, 2, 3, 4, which has changed now because Dawn and I are adding more books to the series. But yeah, I had
and
to
then say with the Demokchu.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to explain to me what that means too. So
okay, in the language of the Outlanders are a race in the world that I'm building. Demokchu means demon child. I was going to call the book series Demon Child series, but there was already a book series in fantasy called the Demon Child series. And I was thinking about it, and I thought, hang on, Demokchu, which I'd already created. Perfect. It's different. It's a little bit weird. Brilliant.
Brilliant. So now, like, okay, you had your idea of you said your first book was really like what, your idea
Correct.
for your 4th book. And what made you think, okay, I need to like have, the lead up, and now you changed it all?
Well, the main character in book 4, I knew he had a backstory. I knew it was a bit dark and it didn't come from a very nice place. It's like, well, that story needs to be told first before we get to book 4. So,
have you ever thought about doing it like Star Wars, where like Star Wars? I remember growing up, like the first Star Wars one, I was like, oh, this is the first movie. And then as I'm getting older, I was like, wait a minute, this is number 5 or number 4, where I thought it was number 1. And then now I got to go back and watch the other ones. I mean, as much as I love watching like sci-fi sometimes, like I get confused very easily.
No, my brain works in order. I have to go 1 through to 6 in order. I can't do prequels and jump around in time. It's too confusing for me, to be honest.
I agree. I 100% agree. I'm just very like, woo, I can't wrap my head around the Star Wars thing. And my husband has to be like, no, this is the one that's before that one. I was like, and then I go, did she die? Did they die? Who died? And I have to like ask all these questions, and I figure that my husband's gonna be like, ugh. So, like, what is this world? Like, let's give the audience, like, what is this world that you have built in your mind? Like, I am interested in this world that you're building.
It's a stereotypical fantasy world. Obviously, it's not Earth. It's, I would say, just after the Dark Ages, very similar to Earth timeline after the Dark Ages. There's a lot of different races. There's a lot of different countries, a lot of different politics. It's interesting. I mean, I've done when I was writing the first book, I had to draw maps, and I'd hang those maps above my computer so I could visualize where everything was, which is good because I gave those maps to my cover artist who made them look pretty, and we included those in the book. You might see some drawings behind me on the wall there.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
That's the cover art for both books. I've got the originals, and you can't see the maps from here. Actually, there's one map in front of me. I'm going to change my camera.
Sweet. Wow.
So when I'm writing, I have these visual aids in front of me so I can picture where everything is.
Wow. So is that like for someone who, like, for me, I wrote my first book and I had like mind mapping things or whatever as well, but not as awesome as yours. So if you had some advice for people who are like trying to figure out, okay, shouldn't I, what would you tell somebody about writing a book?
Do it. If you've got a story to tell it. One book, you might sell 100. Tell your story. Simple as that.
Wow. That's really cool because, there's a lot of people who are scared to actually dive into book writing. And
Yeah.
you do it, like, for me, my first book was a collaborative book. So I did like a chapter. Cool. Yeah. But then when I see you post things on your page, when I talk to Don and it's like, Nathan's already done like 80,000 words. And I'm like, what? I struggled with like 5. How do you tap into your creativity?
Because my imagination's so vivid, like when I'm in bed at night thinking of these stories, it's like a movie is running in my head. So say I've got a day of writing ahead. For me, before I get to my computer, have my coffee, wake up, I lie in the bed with headphones on, with music on for an hour, and I'm visualizing the storyline. And then jump on the computer, away I go. This is not the first time I've written a book. Like, I tried 2 different novels in my mid-20s.
Okay.
But they didn't go anywhere. I lost drive. I couldn't focus. And I reached out back in those days on MySpace to an author I was friends with.
Wow, MySpace. You're bringing back the MySpace.
And I said to him, dude, I'm getting lost. He's like, have you got a chapter plan? I'm like, a what? He says, a chapter plan. I'm like, no. He's like, you need a chapter plan. It keeps you going and flow. So for Slave Boy, I had a chapter plan. It was like a paragraph, chapter 1 through to whatever. It was a paragraph in each of those titles saying where I wanted the storyline to go. And once I finished Slave Boy, I went back and compared the two. Totally different. So it was a good starting point. It was a good, here's the idea for this chapter, but usually I blew it out the window. The second book, Bloodchild, which has just been released, same thing. I had a chapter plan. But for book 3, which I've started writing, there's no chapter plan. I've got bullet points of where I want the overall story to go, and that's it. I'm just letting loose because it's funny. Book 3, when I released book 1, I had some friends from around the world. There's a character called Sick Boy. All these characters, because they're slaves, when you're in slavery in my world, you lose your name. That's one of the things you lose, your identity.
Wow.
So they have nicknames, and one of the slaves is called Sick Boy because he's not right in the head. He has suffered some serious trauma. I had a few friends reach out after the first book and say, what happened to Sick Boy? Where's his journey? He's quite intriguing. What happened to him? And so I was thinking, that's a good story to tell. So I said to Dawn, once we've done the Demok Chew series, which is 6 books long, I might do a trilogy on just Sick Boy. And Dawn's like, great, let's do it. And then I thought some more on it. I didn't want to do his story separate to the rest. So his story and his 3 books, or whatever they're going to be, have been inserted into this series. So we don't know how many books are in this series, but book 3 that I'm writing now is called Sick Slave, and it's all about him. And he is disturbed. I can't spoil it for people, but he's a psychopath, basically.
Oh my gosh. And the funny thing is, like, for people who like for me, I haven't read much like science fiction books, and I feel that like your books are calling me.
Good.
It's kind of like, I first of all, it's the cool covers that I see. I'm like, those are really cool covers.
Oh,
Second
my
of all,
artist, brilliant.
really cool covers. So tell your artist kudos to that. That's really, really awesome.
And Jerry from Dawn's team, he puts it all together. It's amazing.
And second, like, now that I'm talking to you about your books, it draws me into it more. Maybe I was a little like spoiled because the whole Star Wars scarred me with the whole backwards moving and stuff like that with their episodes, but I like that you're setting the foundation for your characters, and I like that.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool.
Like Dawn, I think Dawn was a little bit nervous when she first got the manual script because Dawn was never a fantasy reader either, and fantasy is quite violent. And my first and second book are about slavery, so it's not happy, But Dawn was happy with it. I mean, we kind of portrayed it as being dark fantasy, but really it's not. It's just stereotypical fantasy with a dark element to it. There's a lot of sword fights, a lot of axe fights, lots of fighting, and and I like that stuff. As I said to Dawn, I might not always stay with fantasy. But for now, I'm enjoying it. I want to move on in the future and try some sci-fi because, instead of building a world, I'd like to build many worlds.
Oh my God,
So,
I've been calling it sci-fi, and it's not sci-fi, it's fantasy.
no, it's fantasy. Yeah,
Oh.
It's the same genre, sci-fi, fantasy. It's kind of one and the same.
I'm just like, oh my God, now that I'm talking, it's like I feel I'm in my mind it was sci-fi, but it's not. It's fantasy. And that's one thing. One like genre I guess I never really thought I would enjoy. So again, you're drawing me in. You're drawing me in.
Did you enjoy Lord of the Rings movies?
It took me a little bit to watch them because they're kind of long. I'm my body doesn't sit still for very long, so it took me like a second to get my body moving through it, but it was cool. I was able to watch it, and I only asked my husband a few questions because we watched it in little spurts, so just little spurts, which was good, but I did enjoy it.
Yeah.
So now I know it's fantasy.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah. The only difference between my fantasy, I don't deal with magic at all. So.
Now, would you compare your series as like Lord of the Rings-ish, kind of? No?
No quests, no magic. No, this is about brotherhood. This is about a group of young men getting out of slavery, and once they're out, what the hell do they do with their lives now? Sort of thing.
Ooh.
That's where we're at the end of book 2. End of book 1 is they're out of slavery. What do we do now? Book 2 is what they do in slavery. What's going to be interesting for the readers is the main characters in book 1 and 2. You won't hear about them in book 3 because book 3 is all about this sick slave, about Sick Boy. You won't hear about the other characters until book 4 again. So it's going to jump a little bit. It's going to be good.
Ooh. Would you ever? Okay. So I know you wanted. You said earlier, you wanted to be an actor. Okay. Would you ever think about doing like a movie or a mini movie with your books. All right.
Oh, bit of internet issues.
I know. I don't know if it's me or you. We're gonna keep going.
Not sure.
It's a little windy here, so whenever it's windy, my internet goes like kind of crazy. So I've been like closing windows here and there. So okay, let me ask you this question one more time.
Yeah.
You said in the beginning, like you kind of wanted to be an actor in the beginning, on the stage doing acting. Now, with your book series, would you ever think about having a trilogy or a movie series or, like some kind of Netflix series that people can binge watch your...
100% I would.
Oh, I can totally see that.
It's funny because, I don't want to sound a bit narcissistic, but...
No, go ahead.
In book 4, I introduce a new character. And so that just in case, or when this gets made into a TV series or movie, I get to play it because that character is going to be me. I wrote that into book 4. So from like halfway through the book series through, it's me. And if I was ever approached to make a movie or a series, I'd be like, that's fine. This character's me. End of story. And it's good because I'd have to get back into shape and start lifting weights again because it's quite a bulky character. Motivate me.
Well, you let me know if you need to get bulked up because I will definitely help you.
Apparently, I have one of those body types that bulks out quite well. I have done weights in the past and my body does put on muscle mass quite easily because of my Polynesian blood. I do bulk up quite well. So.
Really? You have the Polynesian blood? Oh, that's really cool to know. So who's the Polynesian in your ancestry?
My grandmother and my father, they are Māori, which is native New Zealander, and that comes from Polynesia. So,
that's really, really cool. Hey, it counts. It counts.
It does. I got my genealogy done about 1.5 years ago. So.
And it counts. 12% is 12%. So, Nathan, like, what is coming down the pipeline? I know you have other books coming up. And I know that your Damakchu series is... Do you have a goal of how many books you want to write for the series?
It was 6. Then it was blown out to 9. Now I'm thinking back maybe 7. But it's still undecided. I don't want to be like some fantasy authors that have like 15, 16 books in a series. It's too much. I want to complete this series story so I can go on to other projects that are rattling around in my head that need to be told as well. I've got non-fantasy story ideas. I've got a horror book in my head. I've got a sci-fi idea in my head. There's so many ideas rocking around in my head right now that I want to get out. So,
like, what is once you finish your series? Okay, do you have one that you're like, you know what? As soon as I'm done with this, I want to work on this?
Yes, I do. One of the novels.
Without spilling too much of the info for everybody.
I started writing a novel when I was 23, called The Stranger. And imagine a modern day, like we are now, modern times. You and I, this is 2021, and walking amongst us without us knowing are gods. They hide in the shadows and they protect us. That's my idea for my next series. I'll leave it there.
Wow. See, now I feel like sometimes I have a very active imagination and my mind gets very creative, and sometimes it takes me through like the overthinking. I'm just like, oh, well, this, and then it just goes a little bit crazy. But I love how your brain works, because it's not just one thing. It's like boom, 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 boom.
It's good when you're being creative. It's not so good everyday life because the brain's just going, you know? It's like, no, Nathan, focus on doing dishes or focus on doing this. You know?
I did that this morning. I was like thinking about, I was having my coffee and I'm like looking at my calendar and like thinking of like those, like thinking, okay, so I have this, I have you, I have this guest and stuff. And then I go, okay, I wonder what I could do here. And then I wonder, and I was like, Laarni, hello, focus on your day today because you have a ton of calls and a ton of guests to talk to today. Focus, And I think that's awesome. I love having the creative mind.
Mm.
I think that curiosity, I did a post the other day about like curiosity fuels me a little bit because I'm always like, for me, like when it comes to training, I'm just like, like I love powerlifting, but then I like think about like all the other sports I can try too that are a strength sport, which I didn't know until COVID times. Because I started meeting people doing other things, like I met a kettlebell athlete. I didn't know there was a kettlebell championships. I did not know that. And, I knew there was strongman, but like all the events in strongman, I didn't know those existed until I started going to a strongman gym. And I'm like, ooh, what's that? Can I try that? What's that? Can I try that? And it like that curiosity fuels my kind of drive a little bit because I know that there's so many more opportunities out there to try stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's as I was like last night before I went to bed, I should have been doing work on my new website because I'm just starting to get my new website up and running because I have merchandise for the books to be sold. I should have been working on that. My brain's thinking about a different series that I want to do down the track, and it's like, but no, focus. No, let's do no. Oh, hang on, let's have a coffee. I'm like a puppy sometimes, Oh, what's that? Oh, okay.
Oh my gosh. So Nathan, this is like the time of the show where you can toot your own horn. Ooh. What is where you just, let's toot. Let's toot.
No, listen. Is this a family show or what? Toot?
It's an equal opportunity show.
There we go. Okay.
So like, okay. Besides, okay, I know. Okay, let me backtrack. What is your first book?
Slave Boy.
And that's been out for how long now? It's been out for what?
December the 7th.
Yeah. So it's been out for almost half a year. Oh, look at how cool that is. I love it. I need to add your books onto my bookshelf and Dawn's books onto my bookshelf.
Yes, I've got a couple of Dawn's books, but I need to get more. I am going to buy yours, by the way. Congratulations on it coming out and doing so well.
Thank you. So what is your second one? Because I know that is coming up. When is that getting released? Or is it already released?
7 months after the first. The second book is called Blood Child.
Yes.
That came out on the 25th of June, which is my birthday.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I haven't got my free copies yet. They're on the way. So that's Blood Child. Sick Slave, in theory, was supposed to be released 6th of December. But I've had a bit of life stuff go on that I've had to deal with. So we've pushed that out till next year, and we don't know when that's coming out, but it will be, I'm envisioning June next year. But as I said, unsure because I want to take some time off to deal with some stuff for myself. And I want to get back into comedy a little bit because I'm missing that attention on stage. So
is New Zealand open?
Yeah.
It's open.
Completely.
And you have any shows coming up? Any
no, I've got to hit open mics again because that's where I was an open micer who was just on his first hour show. I've only performed once since all this book stuff started. So I need to start writing material again. I need to start hitting open mics. I was going to say get my confidence back, but it's not the confidence I need. I just need to get the timing back and get back into the fold of the comedy and then start hitting some shows again. I'm lucky that my roommate, him and his partner, they own the house I live in. He's a comedian. and he travels the country doing comedy, so we can bounce ideas off each other. And he's an amazing comedian. So
That's awesome. Okay. Here's one question. I talked to a guest yesterday, and he's like, I really hate giving like blanket advice because it's just a blanket advice. But in my mind, it really is the person who takes it. Like really, you can. We give all this advice, and it's really up to the person to take it, understand it. So, what would be your encouragement? What would be your words of inspiration to someone who, wants to write a book? I know you said just do it, but like, what if they get, stuck, and what is the fear to get over being an author and writing something? What kind of inspiration can you give somebody?
there was an old quote from an old video game I used to play that I'm going to mention now. It seems a little dark, but I'll say the quote and then explain it. Hope is the first step on the road to disappointment. Okay? Now, I take that as don't sit there and hope it's going to happen. You go out and grab it. Just start writing, whether it's a journal, whether it's a short story, whether it's a poem. Start writing a book. You don't have to publish it. Just knowing the fact that you've done the work and it's there in front of you. I mean, I waited 41 years, no, 38 years before I started following my dreams.
It's never too late.
No, it's not. Go for it. Do it.
I
Grab it.
100% feel you. 100% feel you. I was in the same boat. It's been like 30 something years, and I was like, you know what? I didn't want to just write a book to write a book. I wanted to write my book, something that will put my feet down on this earth and be like, people are like, hey, you know what? I know you had this collaborative book of all these awesome women. Your chapter, I learned blah, 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 blah. And that's the kind of like impact I want to have.
Whereas what started this journey for me, especially it started with comedy, that's where my journey started, is I want to make a living out of my imagination. For me, that's the strongest aspect of me, is my imagination. And I mean, during the day, I'm in construction, I'm in machinery, I'm on a shovel, not very good with the imagination during those times. I wanted to make a living, my job, out of my imagination. And for now, I mean, this is the best way forward for me. So
I just take the first step. Just take the first step. I love that. That's awesome. That's really awesome advice.
And if you need advice,
the stinking internet today. Okay, keep going. Keep going.
I was going to say, like, if there's someone who wants to write a book and doesn't know where to start, reach out to Dawn for Dawn.
I know that the internet is cutting in and out, but that's okay. That's okay. We're going to keep going because you know what? We have to power through these difficult internet times. Okay.
Yep, I'm still here.
It's like, keep going. Yeah. So you said I caught Dawn. I caught the Dawn.
Yeah. If someone's looking at writing a book and doesn't know where to start, contact Dawn Bates. I'm sure Dawn will give you a hand.
I'm pretty sure she will, because she will tear it out of you if she has.
Because I met Dawn. Dawn wandered into my bar. I spent most of my life running bars and restaurants, and she walked into the last bar I was running / part owned, which was a comedy club. She just walked in for a beer. We started chatting, deep connection. We connected on Facebook. And then during COVID, she saw the posts I was writing a book, and she's like, "You do know I'm an author coach?" No, didn't know that. We had a chat. Dawn became my author coach, and here we are, 2 books down, many to go.
Isn't it amazing? I think it's amazing how, even though like the COVID times, they got shut down and everything, we like happen to connect. We just happen to connect.
It's funny because, I mean, it was the whole COVID thing was really terrible. The people that died off, that was a 5-week holiday for me. So,
Well, Nathan, I want to thank you for giving me your time today to tell us about your books, tell us about what's going on, tell us about your story, going through our internet issues and connections. All I can do is laugh about it because there's nothing we can do about it. It's like you just got to keep powering through it. But I wanted to thank you for hopping on. How do people get a hold of you? Hopefully my internet connects back up. Okay. How do people get a hold of you? If they want to ask you more questions about writing and stuff.
Instagram. I've narrowed down my social media. So if you want to get in contact with Nathan Brye, the author, Instagram is the only way at the moment until my website's up and running. So Nathan Brye on Instagram. I also do videos on Instagram where I share my journey during the writing
really
experience.
Cute. Yeah. Which is cute. I love them.
So yeah, Instagram.
And where can we get your books?
Now, interesting. I've been entered, the second book, Blood Child, has been entered for an Amazon competition for storytelling.
Really?
So Amazon is the only place you can buy Blood Child at the moment. It's an Amazon exclusive. So you can buy the Kindle version or the paperback version through Amazon Books worldwide.
Wow, that's really cool. That's really awesome. I can't wait. So everybody who is watching this episode of Let's Talk Java, I will make sure to put all the contact information for Nathan on, scroll. You'll see it on the description at the bottom here, and how to get his book and all that, to contact Nathan if you guys have any questions for him. So, oh my gosh, how amazing is this? Like, I love your series and I can't wait to add it to my books back here and read them and kind of like, hover underneath the blanket and like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Oh my gosh.
I'm sure your man will enjoy reading them as well. So.
I know. All right, Nathan. Well, thank you so much for hopping on my show today. I really, really appreciate it. And
You're welcome.
I am so glad that we were able to connect finally because, I enjoy interviewing people who are like have really cool stories and really cool journeys, and anything I can do to support you, I'm going to do it.
Thank you. And I will be buying your book because I'm looking forward to reading it. I really am.
It's not as it's a quick read, but it's it's got some really cool, at least for me, I thought it was a really cool story. All right, Nathan. Well, thank you so much for giving me your time today. I know time is very valuable for you and for everybody else. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for being on Let's Talk Java today.
No, thank you for having me.
I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.